Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me, as always, my co-host, Bailey Jackson. How you doing, Bailey?
I'm good. How's it going, James? Back to school edition.
The back to school edition, and we are extremely excited. We are hoping, still hadn't heard anything different, but we are waiting on Levon Kirkland to join us, and we will just go through what we always go through until he shows up, and as soon as he shows up, we can get him on air. We have not heard any different. Maybe he's having some potential technical difficulties or a slight delay, but we also plan to give our expert advice because, we are experts in the field of education. We're going to give our expert advice on your most necessary back-to-school supplies. We've got some updates from Tiger Town. We're going to talk about the vibe from the practices, and we're going to give our 2 cents worth on the conference expansion and deflation, I guess you could say. And it's not going to be what you think, more than likely. And we're definitely going to get you caught up on any other major issues in the wider world of sports. But first, Fun Fans are a proud part of the Fanboys Fangirls Sports Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, the Fanboys Fangirls is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts and other sports media at thefanboys.com and all forms of social media. The Fun Fans Podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans.
And let's don't forget about Reuben's Food, Sports Spirits, and Catering, the best wings around, with 2 locations in the upstate, 1083 Batesville Road in Greer and 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont. You can find them at ReubensC.com. Reubens is simply a great place to eat for all sports fans, and we thank them for their support.
Yes. Fun Fans Podcast also brought to you in part by Diamond Etched Products. Diamond Etched Products, also an official partner of Clemson University. So while we got a second, I have a new sign in front of my house from Diamond Etched Products. So this is the type of high quality, licensed Clemson, but custom items you can get from Diamond Etched Products. So we can get you hooked up with them for that. So Bailey, yep. We hear some pretty good stuff coming out of the first week and few days of practice in Clemson, right?
Yeah, everything I've read said practices are, they're getting after each other. I read where there was a fight at practice and somebody got sent out. Well, you know what? I coached football a long time. It wasn't a good practice unless somebody was arguing with somebody getting ready to fight.
Yeah, there's a lot of coaches' philosophy where, maybe not every day, but there's not a fight or two during the season at practice. Something's folks just aren't getting after it intensity-wise. But there are lots and lots of comments about the different mentality. So is there anything you would attribute that to, in your opinion? How would you interpret that?
I'm just going to say that, like every fan that sits in the stands at the football games, Clemson is now expected to win every game. And they're expected to win it like going away, like not close, and it can be unrealistic. But I think the coaches and players have probably made a decision that we need to prepare ourselves to have a great year. And everything I've heard is that could really happen. So let's hope so.
I think the excitement, this is just my opinion, and it's not anything negative about people that are gone, but 2 main components that folks were concerned about, the offensive coordinator spot and the quarterback spot being different this year going into camp, and the excitement that came with the hire, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's I know it's been a different mentality among the fan base, and maybe there's a different mentality among the players. Maybe not, but
yeah, I think so. And I've had people ask me, well, what, now we got to worry about a defensive coordinator. And I said, y'all, do you know how hard it is to coach defense when your offense is 3 and out, or runs 5 plays, or turns it over, on their side of the 50, et cetera, et cetera? It's hard to play defense when you keep running back out there on the field. So with a better offense, I think the defense gets even better. I don't have any problems with the defensive coordinator, and I don't know why anybody does. Everybody that talks about him says he's a genius.
Yeah, we're
And
good.
the players seem to love him. So
We're good. Yeah,
let's roll with that.
I think the defensive staff is good to go. And speaking of the interviews and the defense, I know Xavier Thomas seems to be on a mission. That young man's been kind of plagued with injuries, I guess. And in my personal opinion, when he steps on the field and he's healthy, I don't care what field it is, he's the best player on it. So he seems to be ready to make a statement for himself, obviously. Maybe trying to recreate what that defensive front did when they all came back and, they ended up winning the national championship back, the Power Rangers or whatever. It's not just him.
3 are in the top 10 defensive linemen in the NFL.
Correct. And he's not alone, of course, in a powerful defensive front, but he's kind of alone in that category of I could have gone pro, but I came back. This is a chance to prove myself kind of thing. So looking forward to big things out of him, and just definitely if he stays healthy, it's going to be pretty ugly. So that we're looking forward to it. Speaking of how forward we're looking to it, I went ahead and wore I'm wearing this on the first game. It's going to be hot, 2:00 kickoff in September. So it's white and it's thin, and I'm going to be ready to go.
Yeah, but we're going to be hot.
Speaking of being ready, and speaking of Bailey and I being experts in the field of education, we are here to give you
pushing it, but we'll go with we know a lot about education.
Okay, yeah. That either way, however anybody wants to look at it. So while we wait on Levon to hopefully still show up, I haven't gotten a message saying otherwise. So Bailey and I it's a back to school special. We have our top 6. And they are in order from 6 to number 1, the top 6 items that you must have for going back to school. I need a drum roll. No,
don't have time for all that. In the 80s or in the 90s or now.
Yeah, remember, this is spans decades and decades. Number 6, you got to have a new pair of jeans. Tell them why, Bailey.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, because back in the day, we could not wear shorts to school.
Can you imagine?
Which blows my mind because it is so hot. Like, what was that all about? Like, a dress code. You got to have dress code. Now, kids wear whatever they want to now, pretty much.
Well, not at my school, but yeah, they can wear shorts. Can you imagine trying to tell kids that they couldn't wear shorts?
So we always we had to go get new pants, jeans.
New jeans.
Pants, because we've had shorts on all summer. And it's just like, that was really a thing.
It was definitely a thing. When the town I'm from, there was this place called the Blue Jean Outlet, and people would come from miles around in the month of August, and it was late August because we didn't start school so blame early either, and you just stocking up on your jeans every year. So that's definitely a good one.
I'll go back to and say you had to have some new polos, because in Clover, South Carolina, there was a place called Clear Knit, and they made Ralph Lauren polo shirts. So there was a factory store back there in the back, and you would go back there and there'd be racks and racks of shirts, and they would all have like some little blemish. They might have a piece of tape on them that showed this little pick mark, but man, you'd go through those things and you'd find you 3, it was like buy 3, buy 2, get 1 free or something. And everybody from around went to go get some polos in Clover.
Cool. Yeah, that was we were Hacklet, South Carolina, home of the Blue Jean Outlet. So number 5 on the list, you got to have a fresh cut. I mean, you can't start school without a fresh cut, and that's boys and girls, the same teachers. I mean, I could show you my fresh cut, but you start the year with a fresh cut this year, Bailey?
I didn't, but what's the difference? People go, oh, I say, well, I cut my hair the other day.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Question mark.
Yep. I did. All right. Number 4.
My son had
a new calculator. Now, depending on what grade level you're heading towards will determine on what type of calculator you have to get. But this year we made a 3rd purchase. So there's 7 years between my twins and my youngest. And that TI-84 didn't last 7 years between when the twins needed it and when the youngest needed it. So these things right here, they are not cheap.
Nope.
You would think with the technology, it's the same calculator for like the past decade, 12 years, that the price would come down. But apparently inflation just keeps it right up there. It's like $120 or something crazy.
Well, it's the same formula. So there you go.
Do you want to figure out what they're doing on the screen there?
I don't know. No, it's got something to do with cosine and sine, tangents and whatever.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Once again, if you're listening to the audio version, you're missing out on all the visuals. All right, number 3, and this is extremely important: a new lunchbox, but not that one.
The Golden Girls. I hear you, bud.
Not that one. In my house, at least with 3 girls, you have to have the brand new embroidered lunchbox. Was that a thing for you and your daughter, Bailey?
Yeah. I'm sitting next to a cabinet that's got about 15 lunchboxes in it, and I can't carry any of them because they're all frilly or they're elementary school.
They're frou-frou, and they have your daughter's initials on them. And yeah, so it's like the same thing that worked in May suddenly won't carry the food in August. We got it. We had to buy a new one.
Same and not thing just with books.
Yeah. So you got to have the lunchbox. Hey, now this one is definitely.
What kind of lunchbox do you have?
Me?
Yeah. You know
like
what?
Right now,
I didn't have one when I went to school because we ate school lunch.
We ate the cafeteria food. Yeah.
Where pizza and the fries that were deep fried back then.
Yeah. I have a 31 lunchbox now, though. I didn't know it was 31 until somebody told me.
Oh, my gosh. We 31. Have 4 deep fryers at school, never get turned on. Breaks my heart.
That's awful. All right. Now we're up to number 2. So this is for real. And we've only one of these things has been educational, really, the calculator. But you got to look good, feel good, got your lunchbox. But number 2 is definitely important. You got to have some new kicks. Can you even see that? Those are high top Vans, and I picked that because that's exactly what my daughter brought home last night. Some pretty much all white high top Vans. I had Vans, so Vans has made it through the decades. I had Vans in 8th grade, but they were checkered. You remember those?
Yeah. I mean, I just got some new shoes for my son today, even though we've been in school a week. His birthday was this week, so he got a birthday present today. We
start so early, so you got to have new kicks. I'm hearing that Air Force Ones are out. They're out. They were in, and then they were out, and then they were back in. They're back out again, is supposedly what I'm hearing. So no Air Force Ones. Any type of Jordans are always in if you can spend that Nike kind of money on shoes. Nike Air Max. So you got to have new kicks for back to school. And the number 1 most necessary must-have back-to-school item for everyone in the world,
especially those of us who were in middle school in the 80s.
Yes, the Trapper Keeper. I mean, it's the 3-ring binder. It's the folder. It's got the pockets. And it closes up so it holds it all. I bet nowadays they're probably putting little phone holders in them things too.
And you know what? I used to get. That was a tough decision. Is which one you were going to get. This one's awesome. Used to get one, and then all my papers would just end up stuffed down in a book, in my history book or wherever. Which is not how you do it, kids. That's not how you should do it.
Not how you do it. Not how you do it. So, anyway, so there's our expert. I'm gonna say expert at least as far as that goes for back to school stuff. So, in other sports news. Well, once again, we're waiting on Levon Kirkland. At this point, let's see. Let me check my messages real quick. I don't know. Hopefully, we're good to go. We'll see. If we don't get him on today, I'm sure we'll get him back soon. All right. So, yeah, we're gonna rock and roll. In other sports news, the preseason polls came out, and I know I've got this graphic, so even if you can see what's on the right hand side is the ESPN. PFI, FPI, what's the letters? Power ranking, FPI.
Yeah, that's close enough. I can't see
something with just a PI. And then the coaches poll.
PI, maybe?
It's a football power index.
Okay, there you go.
FPI. So, but we can see, so we can talk about it. And if you look, we're not going to go through, obviously, this entire list, but I like doing a little comparison on the coaches poll. So first of all, Bailey, what type of preseason poll? It's for fun, right? It's literally just for fun, but it does have folks' opinion where they think they're going to be. Where do you put the coaches poll on validity? Because do we need to tell listeners how folks come up with the coaches poll?
The coaches poll, I would think it would be more valid later in the year, but at the same time, the coaches are not watching other games. That's what a lot of people don't realize. All they do is their team and the next week's opponent, or 2 weeks out. 3 of the coaches are working on the next week while that week's going on.
Correct.
So they don't watch anybody else.
And from what I've also heard that, and say coaches poll is theoretically submitted by head coaches, but I think it's pretty common that the head coach has nothing to do with it.
Normally does it, I would imagine.
Well, and the thing about that is that person may be watching some other teams, but they also have some other influence. But like you made a point, every poll is better when after you get some games under the belt. So the power ranking is strictly scientific, but the thing about the scientific part is who creates the algorithm? What do they put the weight on and all this kind of stuff, and then they throw the thing in there. So either poll,
I couldn't see it.
Who was what?
Who's fifth
on that the poll? Power? So the power:
Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State.
Number 5 that's LSU.
Okay, I couldn't see it. I can't really see the logo because I got a split screen here. I mean,
all right, sorry.
You can put that stuff up there, but guess what? Several of those teams are going to play each other. Penn State's going to lose to Michigan and Ohio State. Clemson and Florida State are going to play. So it's just and they're just going, oh, well, Clemson, they didn't do well last year and they limped to the finish, yada, yada, yada. And Tennessee torched them, and Tennessee's ranked 10th, so.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Look at the power index. Tennessee is not even in the I lose track of the numbers there so far down the poll. So the thing is what I like looking at things like this is who is pretty much in the same spot. For example, Alabama is 3 in one and 2 in the other. So that makes it a little more, once again, it's preseason, et cetera, et cetera.
Is the power index, let's have Ohio State first?
Power index has Ohio State first, but the coaches have them 4th. So I'm going semi-scientific on this thing as a comparison. LSU's in a pretty solid spot at 4 and 5. So they're at 5 in the coaches poll, 4 in the other. So that's probably pretty close rank, at least for preseason for them. And it's a similar thing for Clemson. Clemson's in, 7 or 8 or 9, same area. But now what this does, the key, in my opinion, what this does is it creates the matchup. What's one of the biggest games opening weekend?
Florida State LSU.
Florida State LSU. And look at there, baby. They are number 8 and number 5, number 4, and number whatever. So they are, they're going to, and it probably is going to be a really good game, 2 really good teams.
Clemson.
So,
Duke. Oh, wait.
Duke was not on there. And now I will say this, though, speaking of our feathered friends down the interstate, they're not on here, and I'm not saying that to point that out. I'm saying that the team they play is on here. So on the coaches poll, at least, they're not on the power index. But
right, and I think North Carolina's waiting on a couple kids' eligibilities in question.
Possibly, but if the
Gamecocks, a new offensive coordinator,
if the Gamecocks can pull off a victory, that could be a good one for them to start the season, and it gives their game a little more hype that their opponent at least is in this poll. So that's good. I'm saying that as a good thing for the Gamecocks. So
and it's in Charlotte.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing for the Gamecocks, but
I tell you what, I won't be anywhere near Bank of America Stadium that day.
That is correct.
The Gamecocks and the Tar Heels, I'm out.
Yeah, and well, I
was thinking Ty.
did not have a good experience that time we went and see Clemson play, and it had nothing to do with the game. Charlotte's got a lot of problems hosting college football.
Took over.
Yeah, and that didn't go over well at all.
There was
not
a
at all.
At the bottom of the parking deck, and we didn't get out for 2 hours.
Yeah, it was not cool. All right, so as we continue to wait on Levon Kirkland, we've already talked about diamond etched products, but do not forget that you can find that these guys have mastered the diamond laser engraving process. They can put almost any design on items such as license plates, yard signs, tumblers, water bottles, and more for a high quality, forever lasting custom engraved product. Check out Diamond Etched Products at diamondetchedproducts.com. For inquiries and or orders, email Jalen at diamondetchedproducts.com. And speaking of, just in case anybody ever wonders what is inside my high quality diamond etched product tumbler or whatever this 40-ounce thing is during the podcast, it's ice cold, refreshing, delicious Diet Pepsi. Diet Pepsi, the drink of this fun fan on the podcast.
Your hydration.
All right. So now what else is going on in the big sports world? You got this conference expansion stuff. And I've already told Bailey I was going to rant a little bit. You want to give your 2 cents worth on all this expansion and this, that, and the other, or you just want to let me say what I'm going to say?
Yeah, you could say what you want to say. I was just trying to check and see, make sure my O's recorded the last out. They did. I'll say something real quick. It's all about money.
It's all about money.
Money with the kids. It's all about money with the coaches. It's all about money with the colleges and universities. So this was going to happen. Clemson, the ACC, is kind of in a tough spot. Like, now, did you know that Stanford, which is one of the schools that's reported that they are, going after?
Yeah.
There's the Capital One Cup's given to the best athletic department in colleges and universities every year. They win it every year.
Every year.
Every year.
And yeah, so what the ACC is kind of looking like if things happen, from what they're saying, add 2 or 3 teams and keep it rocking, it would be 2 or 3 teams from the West Coast. So it would go from the Atlantic Coast Conference to the Coast to Coast Conference. I'm not the only one that has dubbed that already, but and that could be kind of neat and all. So, well, let me ask you this. Hypothetically speaking, if everybody gets in these huge conferences or little conferences or whatever, people are saying that it's going to matter, and it's going to matter to an extent that it matters to people. But when it comes time to play in the game, every team's going to schedule about 8 of their conference opponents and 4 non-conference opponents. They're going to play 12 games. And by the time all this falls into place, we're going to have a 12-team playoff. Am I right?
Right.
So does it really matter? Hypothetically speaking, if the ACC stays exactly the way it does now, what's going to be the difference for Clemson or Florida State or even Notre Dame, let's say, as far as getting in the playoffs? We all know right now they pretty much have to go undefeated to make the playoffs, right?
Revenue.
Okay. Revenue. So what's the difference in the revenue?
Millions.
How many millions?
Bunches.
All right. So it looks like bunches to us, but people are saying that that's going to translate to outcomes on the field. So without getting overly scientific, because I get on here and I act like I'm just having a good time, but I understand there's these things called theories of large numbers and that kind of thing. And this never been researched. But when you're talking about, let's just say, 900, $1 billion, 200 million is a drop in the bucket. If this school has a revenue stream of, $7 million and this school over here is $5 million, it sounds like a lot because $2 million is a lot of money. This conference is going to get, $100 million more. But in the grand scheme of things, when you translate that to what type of difference it can make on the field, it's probably, and I'm saying probably because you never know, it's probably going to be very, very minute, because look at Clemson now. Are they hurting for money? Is there a facility? Have we heard of any construction that they've said, we sure would like to build this swimming pool thing that would help our players, but we can't afford it? No, we don't hear that. Clemson and Florida State and these schools, the schools that are successful, the bigger schools that are already in the Power Five, they've got more money than they know what to do with as it is. So the difference in this conference, that conference, in my opinion, would likely not make the difference on the field. The difference on the field, and that's going to come from the players. And we both said, and everybody's saying now, that they're going to try to reel in the NIL, this whole pay-to-play thing. That's going to, you can only do so much with that. But I really don't think you're going to play your 12 games. You're going to play your 8 conference. And, okay, so one thing that might be different is Clemson has to make it more of a point to go play, not just Georgia at the beginning and South Carolina at the end, but maybe a Georgia and a Florida and a South Carolina at the end, or something like that. But other than that, I don't see it's going to make any difference. And 8, 9, 10 years down the road, where Alabama is getting what really amounts to 5% more, 10% more revenue stream, and you're talking about a dollar amount that's just astronomical, that's going to translate to probably what we call a statistically insignificant amount of difference on the court and on the playing field and that type thing, in my opinion.
I think it will raise the level of the other schools significantly, the Wake Forest of the world.
But what difference is that going to make? Facilities recruit players. If I'm a kid and I'm getting recruited by Clemson and I'm getting recruited by Carolina, okay, Carolina's facilities have been upgraded significantly. But if I don't like being in the city and I don't like all the concrete and I don't like, all that, then I look at Clemson and go, man, that's a nice place, or vice versa. So It's really the bigger schools are like, not that big a deal. But if you go to visit Duke and then South Carolina, is a big difference, because I guess they're just trying to raise the level for the other schools that struggle. And Glover just hit one right down the middle off 18 tees in a tie right now, because that's the next topic. Because we can beat this dead horse all we want to. That's just my opinion. And even if you brought up the level of the smaller schools, as you say, that's not that they're only going to come up. It's going to be statistically insignificant in the grand scheme of things. It's really, we're talking about, people, it's millions and millions of dollars, but then once it gets spread out around the schools and spread out around the teams and spread out around everything else, it's really, and then, okay, it's still a lot of money. Huh?
It's like this NIL stuff. Did we really know how it was going to work till everybody started doing it?
Exactly.
Well, everybody's jumping on all these conferences. Why don't we just slow play this thing for a year or two and see how it works out for them?
It's hard to
go play volleyball at Stanford on a Tuesday.
All right, well, see, that's the other topic. That's the real rant, because people have come out now. I think the head coach at Missouri was the one that got the most publicity, and some players have come out of the Olympic sports. And I want to preface this with saying, I'm on the side of the players. I've always been on the side of the players. I 1000% agree with what they're saying about how this conference expansion is going to hurt those players as far as travel and whatnot. But my question is, where was this when the NIL was rolling around? Everybody, all we heard was preaching about the players and their name, image, and likeness, and they need to be getting a cut of the money. They need to be part of the money. We're making all this money. They're making all this money off the kids. And no, like you just said already twice on the show, we knew it was going to happen. So now you cannot have it both ways. Where was this voice of reason from some of the adults when we were talking NIL? Now you're part of the money. You're part of the money now. So here comes the travel. That's what happens when it's all about money. I don't understand I feel bad for the players, but you can't have it both ways. So if you're going to say that's going to hurt the players, then they're going to have to revisit the whole NIL and everything, because that's going to hurt the players as well. Have you watched the Johnny Manziel little documentary thing on Netflix?
No, I was told I need to.
Yeah, you need to watch that and see. It's ridiculous. And it in my opinion, once again, it's my opinion. It is, and it's an example. It wouldn't happen to everybody, but everybody knows what happened with Johnny Manziel. He had all this potential and basically didn't live up to it because, he literally couldn't handle. And if you watch that documentary, he lost his best friend. His family said he started acting different and all this kind of stuff. He couldn't handle that money. He couldn't handle that lifestyle. And, it was not good for him. And now he's in a bad place, or at least he was. And see, that's, people like me and you have said this whole decade, it's been a conversation. These kids don't need millions of dollars. And they're getting, they're making money off the kids and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, now they're getting their cut of the money. They're in the system. Well, the system always goes for ways to make more money. And if that means Colorado playing, wherever, or Clemson playing on the West Coast, then that's what it's going to mean. You can't have it both ways. Somebody should have stood up, that coach, Missouri and all these other people, the players themselves, the parents should have stood up like we did. We get shut down. I mean, if I ever had a chance to say it, I'd say it. But this is an amateur. They took the amateur out of amateur sports. So you can't have it both ways. Right. And I hate it. I really do hate it.
So what they'll have to do is like the Pac-12 for years and years. I mean, I've read every John Wooden book that's ever been written, and they have for years done like their road trips were pretty long road trips. So if a team, let's say Arizona was going to come to LA to play UCLA, they would play UCLA on a Thursday and USC on a Saturday and then turn and go home. Or they would go to Oregon and Oregon State, or they would go, the teams from up there would travel to Arizona and Arizona State, and it would be in a 2-day turnaround. So as a coach, you didn't have that normal prep for the second game that you would always have. So anyway, that's just something to think about. But I do see in your notes that you have golf mentioned in the notes.
Oh yeah. So that's the Fun Fans, at least the James Dillard rant on the not just I don't care if they've been conferences, but be careful what you ask for sometimes. So let's get an update. I've been hearing all the stuff about Clemson player in golf all weekend. So what's the deal?
Well, Lucas Glover is I want to say he probably graduated from Wade Hampton in 98 or 99. He was on Wade Hampton's golf team when I coached golf at Travelers Rest, and he's a funny guy. He didn't tie his shoes. He turned his hat around backwards, and he hit it 300 yards with an old little tiny club from 25 years ago. Yeah. But he's tied for the lead. He just hit it on 18 green, so he's got a putt to win, if not to be in a playoff. But so Glover's had some struggles, and he won the 2009 U.S. Open. And he was on the national championship team at Clemson, I'm pretty sure, with a couple of my guys that played. Actually, I didn't coach them. I just made sure they got there on time. But in his last 6 tournaments, now get this, up until this point, up until June, he had made about $70,000, $80,000 for the season. Okay, he missed a bunch of cuts. Since June the 8th, or since the end of the tournament on June 11th, he has made $2.2 million. Okay, he has finished 4th, 6th, 5th, and 1st last week, which was his first win on tour in forever. Tearful celebration, Clemson shirt all over, CBS golf coverage. His daughter had a Clemson t-shirt on, and now he's been in the lead all week at this tournament. So he's playing like really, and these are the playoffs. This is FedEx Cup playoffs.
Right.
He's playing great. And he had a little bump in the road earlier today. He hit a ball in the water on the back 9 on a par 3, but he has come back and he is tied for the lead as he walks up the 18th that way. And
Very
it's so
good.
hard at Memphis. He is completely, his pants are completely wet, and that's from being sweaty.
Yeah. I was about to ask where they're playing.
Anyway, he's a good dude. I ran in a few of those circles back then. Just watching these guys play golf was amazing.
Well, we're still waiting on Levon. Maybe I hadn't heard anything. But at this point, we might be looking at a reschedule. But who knows? We might still be on here when he finishes up. What about in other sports news that Bailey keeps up with? That's what we should name the segment. Other sports news that Bailey keeps up with. How the O's doing?
Oh, they took 2 out of 3 from Seattle this weekend. It's hard because they played Friday night at 10:10 p.m. local time. They played last night at 10:10 p.m. So those are I have to go back on the app and rewatch those in the mornings because I'm not going to make it to the end of that. And then they just finished another exciting game. And the Mariners had won like 8 in a row. So those just took 2 out of 3. They've won 10 out of their last 14. They have a 3-game lead in the American League East, and they have the second best record in all of baseball behind the Atlanta Braves. So it's a great year to be an O's fan, and I know there's not many of us around here. So
Yeah,
I'm also not around here. Cheerleading. Did you know that?
You are. I did know that. So what is the news in the world of Clemson cheer?
Well, they received a bid today to the national championships this spring, and they've been at camp all weekend. And that little certificate says that my daughter was named Collegiate All-American this weekend.
Real claps, not fake claps.
Those are real claps. And, of course, I am very proud of my daughter because she's doing her thing, and she's a senior, and she's on the president's list and all that good stuff. So, but congratulations, Katie, and the Clemson cheerleaders. They had several All-Americans, and they did receive their bid.
Very good. Very good, Katie. Congratulations. So that's awesome. All right. So, speaking of Clemson, I met Levon last weekend at Wayne Buckingham's Orange and White reunion fundraiser. If you've watched any show for the past 4 months or so, you've heard us promote that event. And, I had never been. It was the 4th annual. It was the first time they had a gala, but it was a really, really good event. So I met Levon. We met Perry Tuttle. We talked more with Grayson Marshall. I got to interview, and we'll get the recording of the interview up soon with Horace Grant. I mean, it was unbelievable. Plus, it was fun. It was a really cool experience. Bailey and I had already decided that we're going to do it a little different next year. We're probably going to go over there and stay the whole weekend. That would be a lot better than the running around.
We're going to have an opportunity to use some air conditioning somewhere.
Yeah, that too. It was pretty warm. But it was an extremely, and then the way I described it, and it's a lot of it got posted. We broadcast a lot of stuff last weekend. But if you can imagine having, we go to Clemson on Saturdays as football games, and now there's tailgate hopping. So you can do the tailgate hopping. You get to see a good handful of your Clemson friends, your Clemson family. But this event was but most of the time that's hard to do. It's hard to see anyone other than who you're tailgating with. And when I came out of the event, I just described it as, it's like having your tailgate and with your whole Clemson family without having to hop from car to car to car and everything. So, and I think it was a pretty cool way to kick off football season. And they were also doing it for a good cause. They gave away school supplies to some kids Saturday morning. The money, another portion of the money goes to scholarships for Clemson.
Scholarship in Buckingham's name.
Yeah. So
and he actually, he's a big dude now, and he got emotional on stage when they did that. And it was cool.
Yeah, very good.
The funniest thing was he was carrying around one of those DeWalt fans like you buy with the battery pack on. He had that thing carried around the whole time we were there. So,
it was pretty warm. There were a lot of people saying
playoff right now.
They're going to the playoff. A lot of folks think we need to start the gala next year about 7 instead of 5. So that can make a world of difference. So, but we're already looking forward to that next year. It's going to be great. And speaking of things to look forward to, so now we are 2 weeks away, only 2 weeks away. The next big thing for the Fun Fans family is the Fanboys Fangirls Season 2 kickoff, okay, on Sunday, August 27th. We talk about it every time when we do the little promo, whatever, of all the podcast, network. We're going to line them up for everyone, just back to back to back podcasts on Sunday, the 27th. And we're also going to try to overlap to a certain extent. So we might be on a show that's talking about NC State. We are planning to have the host of the Golden Homers, which is the Notre Dame podcast. I figure that'll be a cool conversation to talk about the Clemson Notre Dame matchup. So look for that. We have podcasts that cover Florida State, Notre Dame, Kentucky, Nebraska, NC State, and that's just a few of them that I happen to write down on my notes. So 2 weeks from now, Sunday, August 27th, find our social media on how to listen to each one of them. I think we're going to try to get it on a common YouTube channel. That'll be cool. But that'll be a great kickoff for the Fanboys, a kickoff for all college football fans. So that'll be fun. And one more quick announcement. About a month or so ago, Bailey and I were actually interviewed. We were on the other side of the table. We were asked to be on Brandon Sports Talk. So Brandon interviewed us for his show, and that interview is literally just got released, I think, yesterday. So we're going to post links to that so you can hear our conversation with Brandon, and make sure and check him out and check out his channel and everything else. So, Bailey?
Yep.
We kind of jumped around on our notes because waiting on Levon, and hopefully we can get him at some point. Did I leave anything out?
No, I don't think so.
I think we've pretty much covered everything, and I'm not going to sit here and talk.
We can get Levon on the rebound. He's a busy dude.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a busy guy. Oh, there is one thing, and I'm out of merch. We would be giving away some merch. I'm out. I'm all out. Maybe we'll get some T-shirts or something. Maybe we'll get some more koozies or whatever. But for now, we do not have merch to give away. If you'd like to get some merch, just go to our merch store. But we do not have any merch. And I've been beginning of school. It's been super busy, so I apologize. The last two people that have won, I hadn't mailed it out yet either. So my apologies to those folks. I will get that to you as soon as possible. So I appreciate your back to school. I'm going to say we were experts, Bailey, on the back to school. We definitely dropped our opinions. We don't normally rant, but we ran a little bit. So maybe, that's what most other podcasters do. And we're definitely looking forward to football season. Like I say, I'm already dressed for it. It's really close. We can feel it. And, okay, I can't keep stalling. I can't stall any longer.
Let's keep moving.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's it for today. So thanks again for checking us out each and every week. Don't forget to click subscribe on the Fun Fans Podcast YouTube channel, as well as your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all forms of social media, and please share. Links mentioned will be and archive shows can be found on the Fanboys website, and we'll also post the links when we post the show on Facebook, Twitter, and social media. So on behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, Jay Thriller Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Podcast Network, and Bailey Jackson,
we out of here, James. Go Tigers.
Thanks for listening, and go Tigers.